I feel somewhat relieved in being able to understand better or more what is a wet clutch compared to the kinds of clutches I used to work with in terms of sports cars in the old days as a kid. And basically, let's say I put the wrong motor oil in Beauty, and although let's say the motor oil's for motorcycles, it claims this guy right here, it really screwed her up royally. So the first step is, as well, to drain that other stuff out. I'm returning the other, if you will, container which I purchased, and getting some 10W40 from Honda itself, okay, their GM4, whatever it's called. Got to do tomorrow. But in the meantime, let's say we're going to take this clutch apart here and have to clean her down. And I think at that point, let's say things should start working again. Anyway, at this point, I'm going to be doing a lot of thinking and assessment analysis. And I welcome your opinion, input. Just give me a holler on the video, any other, say hello or whatever. But if you got an opinion on this issue, and then say you think you kind of have an idea, say what I should look at and my approach of what I should do. Hey, let me know, okay? Because I'm very much open to suggestion, and I like to, other people's opinions. That's why I share this stuff in the first place. Other than that, I looked at shifter forks and I've looked at shifter drums. And I thought to myself, okay, yeah, that seems like it could make sense, but if in fact, let's say the inner gears are not getting over into where they're supposed to be getting and so forth. But on the other hand, I don't see that relating to the rocking. And the rocking, I did observe a slight bit, in other words, down in the clutch area in the basket with respect to the drivetrain gear. And I might even have to go back down to this area to find out why in fact are we in fact rocking. But if you have any ideas about this, again, please just let me know. Thanks. So it turns out that the clutch itself, as you can see now, okay, in other words, has the pressure plate removed from it, and you could actually tickle these guys. And when you want, say when they lock in with a particular, let's say, gear, they're not all gears are locking in, but anyway, as you can see, you can make access to those. My thinking is, I like the idea of cleaning the stuff off, the synthetic off, drilling in there and then driving it, say some cleaner through there, even carb cleaner or whatever. And then at that point, then dropping some real serious 10W40 oil in there, just say for motorcycles, and let that settle in. And we'll see what kind of results we got before I have to tear it down any further. Well, actually, upon closer inspection, I decided that there's a lot of whatever on each one of those discs. And that whole thing has got to come apart, and I got to really review it and clean it up, rebuild, replace the discs that are in there if necessary and the like. Meantime, I'm waiting for a particular special socket. I said to go on my socket wrench to grab that nut. There's no way I can get that guy loose otherwise. And again, eventually to put this thing back together again, I'm going to still need that socket. To tighten that nut down again. And in the meantime, while I wait for that, it's just going to take a whole week to get here. I'm actually, let's say, doing other things like, finally, being able to, if you will, shine it a little bit. Okay, so the grasp of the obvious question is why not go ahead and clean the bloody thing, since you're going to have to wait a week to get that wrench socket anyway. So anyway, what I had in mind was to do something along like this. See this stuff like here, just like this carb cleaner stuff and whatever. It's been very successful in cleaning other things there, what I call it. So I just give it a little shot, like so. And then rotate the wheel a little bit, as so. As you see, there she goes. And continue on and on and on. I'll get back to you later on. I'm going to get out of the garage here and get some fresh air. Yeah, so I got a first application done, so to speak, a couple of rotations of the clutch, as well as against spraying carb cleaner into it. And again, I'm hoping it'll drain into this side item down here. I'll be able to see some sort of dirt, oil, or whatever go into this. But now it just feels damp and whatever, carb cleaner. And otherwise, I'll say that's about it. And tomorrow, I'll check her out. And what I like to do is do a couple applications of this and then some 10W40 onto here, and then see what we can do in the meantime, and see before I get that wrench and I get the clutch working prior to getting that wrench. Then Beauty gets put back together without getting the clutch taken apart. It's just after 7 a.m. Sunday morning, beautiful day. And so I'm going to sit here and I'm going to work on those brakes. Not the brakes, excuse me, I got coffee here. And we'll work on the clutch. I gotta wake up a little bit more first. And then we'll work on the clutch. I closed the garage door because I heard a noise, and I want to confirm what that noise is. And what that noise is this. That's called friction. So the idea, as I say, is that maybe we are getting somewhere by cleaning these plates off, and I'll continue to clean them a little bit more. I'd say about every maybe half hour or so, another. See if we can get something going here today. If not, hey, anyway, I'm an optimist. There were nice results of the clutch plates themselves, and they look like they're getting improvements. And like what really alerted me just now is the idea of linkage. And if you can see this in the glare, see how that pops back and forth like that. And now I put the seal in here about maybe a couple of months ago for the oil seal, but that would allow this latitude to, let's say, or the shifter to have the latitude. But why on the other side, the latitude is the question, and that's behind, again, our clutch. So I'm going to have to pull that clutch assembly out regardless in order to be able to get to that linkage. Actually, I did monkey around with that shifter rod a little more. I took it off and put it back on, try and examining it a little closer as to what's going on with it. Turns out on the other side, of course, is where it reaches to, and that little shifter mechanism, which is behind the clutch. But you can reach to the shifter rod down here. That's this fellow is just right over here. And so, see, he got some play, but there's nothing that's major there that's going on. There's no loose parts. If I reach under here, now I plan on pulling this baby off, apparently. I'm gonna have to do that if I don't get a shift the way I want it. But behind here, the shifter mechanism itself, I don't feel any kind of loose parts. Oil, as you can see, there's a little more oil left there, but not a lot. And right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and treat this with a 10W40 and let that soak in for a period of time. I figure I want to button this up, close her up, and therefore put all this back together again, if you will, and start testing her, seeing if I can get something to work. And if not, I'll have plenty of time for when that adapter, that's a little socket wrench adapter thing my dear arrives for me to pull this. I was just about to use this and turn some lights on. I got a kick out of this one. It doesn't say synthetic at all, but I'm alerted to the idea of this jazz right here, and I'm wondering on pro and scientific and all that stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, I just want some 10W40, man, and I'm a little bit concerned about this business and what that would do to the clutch, okay, place, because again, this thing do need a friction, and I had STP 10W40 in there before I put the other one in, actually. If you do want to shoot yourself in the foot, you could always use this one too, or actually to get your bike pissed off at you. Anyway, this was 10W50, and she just added to the problem, or whatever. But, okay, so this is the actual correct oil, and this is the one that Honda recommends. I believe Honda manufactures it. Yeah, matter of fact, they got that Honda on there. You don't see any kind of racing engine, you don't see anything other bullshit, whatever, but what you do see is oil, 10W40. So I'm going to pour a little bit of that into a cup right over here, and then administer that onto that clutch, and then again, let that clutch feel a little bit of this real 10W40. I've probably lamented over this enough times and whatever, but I bought Beauty back in 1979, and I guess I was like 28 years old, and I was an engineer at Burroughs Corporation down at Sayo, Pennsylvania. Anyway, I walked into the Devon Honda down there, and we just fell in love, and I just drove her out of the showroom that day. In 1988, I had to put her away to raise a family. And then I guess after shelter in place is when I actually started restoring her, and that's what I've been doing now. Anyway, when raising 3 children at night, I used to give them a bottle and so forth and so on, and just give them my babies and so forth and so on. Now, if the men in the white coats showed up today, I wonder if they think I was trying to do the same here with baby. We'll see what we can do here. Okay, I'll give you an update in a few moments. Okay, let's see what we got going on. All right. Okay, interim results are we do have some stuff dripping through there, as you can see, which is really cool. Now, I soaked her down real well, and I'll continue to soak her. Give her a whole bottle. And there you go. See, she's dripping through, which means she's got plenty of oil on there to soak on with. And what I'll do is I'll just put on another layer of oil on top of that layer of oil eventually, a little bit later, say about half an hour from now. And then we'll, again, I said we'll see what we can get done. If I get the shifter mechanism to work, wonderful. If not, I don't know, play it by ear. I was thinking maybe I need to have a quart of oil in the sump pump or down in the gear areas as well. Maybe that might help. But I do know, say in other words, that we are making progress, but very, very slowly. Let's just to work by having a pressure plate push, if you will, the inner discs, if you will, rings against, say, the outer ones. The outer ones actually, I would say, are part of what's the engines. Say they directly connect to the engine, and the inner ones actually connect into the drivetrain itself. So again, the clutches, if you will, is when these guys catch up with themselves. That's in fact, again, they synchronize. So they have, let's say, what's, you know, again, say springs, if you will, to mount that pressure plate, and that's what we're putting on right now. All these springs, and it's a little hairy to do with two hands. And I have no magic wand, so I'll let you see what it looks like once I get it all put back. Okay, so if you can see this right now, what I'm trying to do, this guy is actually the fellow that pushed the little clutch lever in, and I'm going to lighten him up before I have, this is the pressure plate assembly, and I don't have him tightened yet, and I have this fellow now onto here, and with one hand, there you go. Okay, so now he's in, and everybody's aligned. And so the next thing we want to do, now that he was aligned, is I can gently just, let me see, just do this now for now, look at this. And what we'll do is we'll do a rotational type of thing, so that way we don't warp anybody out of place. And everybody can say they get a turn, they can't say my turn, my turn, my turn. Oh, that got a shit. In the meantime, boy, I'm getting cranky. I have to get my coffee, I guess what it is, and get all this oil off my fingers. Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to button this up a little bit more, and I'll show you what the results are. And hopefully we got some results that are worth showing. Okay, I'm going to use a smaller ratchet wrench as opposed to a larger one. And the idea being to say that I'll have less torque on this one in terms of that one. And I could be using a torque wrench. More than likely I will in the final, let's say, turn out of this thing, but normally I go by instinct with whatever I do, and I like to trust my instincts, and so I'll just give this guy a gentle feel. So basically I have them tightened up enough here. If I go like that, then I can go to basically a circular pattern, and with a circular pattern I can say hello, everybody is now included. Ooh, look at that, so we're getting loose there. And now I come back up to here, okay? Go to there and there, and that would be, again, I think our circular pattern, if I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. I've never been a cameraman and a whatever mechanic, pseudo mechanic at the same time. Oops, don't screw up. Okay, pay attention to what you're doing. Anyway, I gotta pay attention to what I'm doing, so I'll let you know what it looks like. Okay, these little darlings right now are all, say, flush against their mounts, and so what we're gonna do is say, I feel you, and I feel enough resistance there, enough resistance there, enough resistance there, enough resistance there. This is one-handed, don't forget. Okay. Enough resistance over here, and then again, enough resistance over here, and we repeat the pattern. She seems to be pretty much locked in at this point. Well, the obvious next step is, of course, to put on this cover. Now, I'm putting on a cover like this. What I like to do, I learned my lesson on this Honda as well. I'll go back to a little story first, and a really cool story. When I was a kid, well, I don't know, I was 22, I got around that age. I had a Porsche, and it was a VW Porsche, and with the color Volkswagen Porsche 914, and I dropped the engine out and I had to rebuild it. I hired a mechanic to help me with it. And we rebuilt it, but we rebuilt it without gaskets. And due to that fact, within about an hour, my Porsche was leaking all over the place. Yeah, the guy got me for $100 too. Anyway, so it's been my policy ever since with working with engines is that I'm always going to use a gasket cement, if you will, of some sort with, say, in order to form some form of a gasket or a seal. Now, I decided not to do that here initially, and because they didn't recommend that, and lo and behold, I had leaks when I changed that valve cover. So in fact, what I did do is I got their gasket, and then I used this gasket cement, and this stuff comes out just like this right here. It's really cool. It's like a rubber all its own. And anyway, so after I have coffee, then I'm going to, let's say, put the stuff on there and get that mounted, and then I'll get back to you. Well, I got some Sumatra for now. I'm going to sit back and enjoy that. And then I'll get on to this other stuff, whatever. And yeah, so this could be a pretty hairy job. I'll tell you why. One of the things I found in taking this cover off was, in fact, that one of the bolts, this one down in here in particular, oh my goodness, I think it's this one or it's this one right here, doesn't have the length. It's a long bolt, and she doesn't have the length, okay, or short enough length, okay, to come out, say, disturbed by this pipe right here, or unblocked by the pipe. So I had unscrewed her, and I brought the thing out like this. So basically what we're going to do is try to finesse her to go back in the same way. That's awfully pretty looking, but that's actually the stuff itself, and it's going to go against that gasket that's already there, that's been there and was originally there, and we leave that undisturbed. Now, the whole idea is that I might have to take this apart again within a week, but I'll address it then to see what's going on. But I do notice, in other words, that what I will have is a rubber consistency with this gasket, and you know, I can just always take off the other one. I don't think it'll disturb this gasket, as well as again, say, reapply it when needed. So we'll just see what happens now. The next step is again to get this baby on. Okay, so we're getting there, but let's not forget the more important things. Oh shit, what did I do? I didn't do anything bad. Okay, I thought I screwed something up. Bolt I'm focused on, I have a bolt stabilizer over here, and bolt I'm focused on is this one that's down here. If I can show it to you, say there he is. And what I'm doing is I'm gently torquing her, you know, if you will, like this, and that's the best I can do until I can get her past that pipe. And then once I get her past the pipe, then she'll freewheel right in to where she's supposed to go. Well, getting that bolt down in there was, there art thou. There you are. There you are down there. Anyway, getting that bolt down there was worse than having to wrestle with a 9-headed dragon, which I had to do the other day. But on the other hand, I was concerned about, if you will, warping the bolt going in at an angle like this, and I had to jiggle it and jiggle it and jiggle it, finesse her, and finally I was able to get her lined up, and then manually, gently, with very, very, very slowly with this little 8mm, torque her in gently. You know, being a kid does have its advantages at times, and for me, this is almost like being one, if you will. And anyway, you get my drift. You remember actually back then, let's see, can I do that too? Yeah, I can do that too. That's cool. Wow, that's far out. Yeah, I can say, I remember wanting to build a spaceship, and the closest I can get at like 9 years old was put it in a box, a big refrigerator box, and hope like holy hell that somehow or other that was going to become a spaceship for me. Just Flash Gordon had one. My late Uncle Bob, who really appreciated the need, took me in a Piper Cub, I guess, I guess around 9 years old or whatever. And say I got to fly for a half a moment or whatever, get to put my hands on the controls. And we were up 1,000 feet. And man, I thought that was so bloody cool. Oops, there it goes. Where'd it go? There she is. But anyway, I thought that was so bloody cool to do that. I gotta get concentrating here. So when I was 14 years old, down on 73rd Street it was, and off of East End Avenue, right off the FDR Drive in Manhattan. What are we doing here? Oh, I'm down there, and you're up there, and I'm down here. Anyway, I discovered a place to say where they had a Lotus garage, and so I started hanging out there, and this guy, Raul, actually let me hang out there when I was around 14 years old. They serviced Hondas back then, and that's when the Honda 50 originally arrived, if you will. And so I got to actually pretend I was a mechanic on the Honda 50, And then I remember the 120 coming out, the 90 I think it was. And then there was the 120, and then say the 150 or 160. There was a 300 as well. And then there was a 250 Scrambler. By then, I believe my parents came in. They kicked me out of that garage because I was just getting away. Whatever about it. I learned a lot of stuff there, that was for sure. I had a lot of fun. Anyway, sorry about the hands in the way. I've learned more about iPhones, I guess. Now in '79, when I met Beauty, well, that was a whole nother story. We just fell in love, and I just basically, I had a really hot sports car at the time too, but I put it aside because it wasn't a Porsche, it was actually a Datsun 280Z. But anyway, Beauty, I just rode Beauty all the time. Now the mechanics on this side have been completed. That includes, if you will, removal of that bell housing there, and taking the clutch and trying to clean the clutch out, if you will, looking at the solvent, and then re-oiling the clutch, and then putting it all back together again. That's the most we could accomplish right now without the wrench bolt, or the thing, the adapter, if you will, to be able to pull the blood clutch out itself. I'm not really impressed with the results yet, but on the other hand, I'm an optimist. So what I'm going to do is, if you will, I have time to put the oil in, and so I'm set up here now. This is a rather precarious situation where I'm going to need both hands and all that. So imagine what it's like putting in oil. It will go in from the cup first, and then from the cup into the spout, if you will. Okay. So we raised 3 children, and for our oldest, who's probably could be older than you for all I know. Anyway, when she was a baby, I would say 1, 2, 3, open, close, and chew like a train. And she would give me like, what the hell are you talking about, kind of a look. And I thought to myself, okay, so. But it was like, feeding babies, and that's what this is about also, same kind of thing. You require some kind of patience. You could, also think of this as like, liquid gold in a way. Actually, the price of this stuff and what have you, after a while, spending money on oil, just find out it's no good for your engine, etc. But it sure beats putting oatmeal into an old car transmission, or drivetrain, and what have you. And yeah, she looks like liquid gold, when I pour it in there. If it was, maybe it would be nice gold. Gold would be a very cool lubricant when you think about it. I don't know about it. Cool. Let's first see how much life she has. I don't think she's got any life at all. Okay. Looks like gotta give you a charge. All right. Okay, dollface. You find motorcycles, generally you have to account for getting to their batteries often and stuff. So I made up a lot of little doodads, if you will, so like I can say, okay, now, there is a way to jump the bike and not have to go to the battery itself directly. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, is hook up to that guy onto my battery charger, give a few minutes, and then jump the bike. Well, maybe it's time to get some more coffee. I was about to have a coffee break, but she says she's cool, and so let's see what's going on. All right, some coffee, put it over. Oil coffee, I'll be back with you later. Yes, my darling. Anyway, so yeah, she says she's happy, good enough, whatever, to crank, and fuel's enabled at this point. And let's just give her a good morning, good afternoon. Hello? Okay, not yet. Cool. Not yet. Let's know what neutral is. Not yet. Okay, what Darling wants to do is, in fact, crank if I pull that, clutch panel back, and I gotta find a neutral position, I guess. This is my next step. Okay, it's been a long day. Now fuel has been enabled. Note, there's no more play in this guy to speak of. There was a lot of play. Where am I looking at? Are you looking at the same place I am? Maybe not. I thought you were. What a dummy I am. Anyway, yeah, there's no more play in the shifter itself. This guy down here. If she was going back and forth and everything, now she's not. Okay, she'll start up next time, say I charge her a little more. at this point, as I do have gas down the intake and so forth. Gas fumes, etc. Anyway, but bottom line, as I say, is that I do have to pull that clutch, and I cannot find a neutral at this point in time. So I'm curious about, say, she's on her stand, so it looks like I might have a stuck clutch. I'm not sure what the heck you want to call it. But anyway, I got to scratch my head on that one, that's for sure. Okay. Okay, so I have her running without the, apparently you need the clutch to be in when you want to start her, and otherwise it's not engaged in gear at the moment. And what I want to do is I just want to let that thing warm up, that oil, and see what the heck happens in the near future. Keep our fingers crossed. Good morning, it's Monday morning, it's actually 9 a.m. and it's time to get back to Beauty and see what progress we can make with her. As of last night, I didn't film or videotape further follow-ups on what I was working on from what I posted already, but anyway, we'll see a lot of oil down here. It's not leaking, is it? No, anyway, one of the things I I did do is I tied back this clutch. And the whole idea was I was running the engine in warm state, letting it warm up with that clutch, okay, tied back like that, which causes, let's say, the discs themselves in the clutch, or the clutch plates, if you will, to separate, hopefully, and at which point, in other words, they can be freed up. And so this morning we'll go through a bunch of tests and see, in fact, again, that we can actually shift in the gears or not shift in the gears, or find neutral, and all that kind of good stuff. We'll find out what happens. To avoid wearing her battery down, I'm going to be cranking Beauty off of the battery charger this morning. And again, she's got to wake up and all that type of thing as well. But I do want to do those tests. And I did notice this, it looks like my chain's a little bit loose. Might be. I have to tighten that up as well. And I got a really cool chain alignment tool I'll show you later on that I got from another company to do that job. Okay, gorgeous, do your stuff. Just to wake up a little bit. Well, she is a little fussy when she's trying to get started in the morning. I know that. And so I just give her a little latitude. Come on, baby. Not yet. Okay, doll. Okay, so far I tested a little bit. Now it's a little bit warm to the touch. Yeah, she's a little bit warm to the touch at this point. Don't touch these pipes though. But anyway, yeah, I ran with the clutch out in each gear selection. She wanted to start jumping into fifth and what have you, but that's about it. Otherwise, let's say you could hear, let's say, the clutch being, let's say, let out. You can definitely hear it in the engine compartment area, but you don't see the engagement. I'm going to, let's say, just wait. Well, I still have to wait for that tool to arrive. But once that tool arrives, then, yes, I have no choice but yet to do the surgery again on the operation. But we'll have it back together, down, back together again if necessary. Right now, I do choose to wait on some of that radical stuff. Just like say, okay, can we get the discs to separate? I mean, what happened to the motorcycle in the first place was that some synthetic oil got into those plates in the clutch and really screwed it up royally by making them too smooth and too, say, if you will, lubricated, so there's no friction, and therefore you could not engage the clutch, and therefore you cannot engage a gear. Okay, that makes sense. So basically what I did as of yesterday is I cleaned down that stuff as much as possible without being able to remove the clutch itself because, say, of the lack of that tool. She seemed to improve in behavior somewhat, and just give her a few more days of that, and say again the warming of the clutch plates and the opening and closing of the clutch and the shifting up and down, what have you, and if the tool arrives and the thing, if she's working by then, we don't have to do anything more, but if not, then yeah, we'll go pursue the surgery. So once upon a time, of course, Beauty had neutral. And it should be first gear, and that should be neutral. And it is neutral, and if she's reading right, we should not need to have that clutch in to start. And yet we have to have that clutch in to start. So that gives you sort of like a confusing signal as to why would you have to have the clutch in neutral unless she doesn't know she's in neutral, and why doesn't she know she's in neutral? Well, I'm going to let her sit there with her, say, clutch again, suspended, so to speak, or tied back like that while she's warm. In the meantime, I can do some cleaning up around here, so later this afternoon, if I need to do something, I can do it without getting all this yesterday's oil all over me. And say, be prepared for operation when that adapter, or whatever the heck you want to call it, socket wrench adapter, say arrives. I'm going to conclude that the clutch is still trying to figure out, okay, it's actually still slipping, if you will, on those discs, and it simply cannot synchronize, and there's nothing there, okay, for it to synchronize with. The reason I say that is that, in fact, I can hear the clutch literally engage, and I'm going to try to document that now. Once I have it running, I'll be back in a minute. Anyway, I could hear it earlier that the clutch would want to, if you will, do its thing. So I know the clutch is actually doing its thing as far as, expanding and contracting and all that kind of good stuff. The mechanics are all there. I got a feeling that it's simply that those plates are simply gone to hell, and we have to just replace them. Okay, the best solution I've found actually on eBay, they actually have complete units and whatever, and I sent out a few questions about the complete units. But I'm really, if you will, circumspect as far as can we get anything working with the existing plates, and the rest of the clutch looks like it's in okay condition and what have you. So I thought to myself, let me make an investment in total of $73 to get these plates, and they claim to be in good condition. Included in this deal is supposed to be an all-state contract of some sort. I'm not sure if it shows up here or not. No, it doesn't. But anyway, it says, okay, this is good, and if it's not good, we'll replace it, or say something of that nature, and your ass is covered. So I said, okay, well, fine. When does it arrive? I will be at that point, again, filming this. In fact, it is, appears to come from the bell housing itself. It's coming down draining down the exhaust pipe from here and down this way, and then drips from here, where it can't drip any further or drain any further down on the pipe. So it's coming from this area here. And by golly, like I said, these screws are all, they're torqued. Okay, that oil leak right there seems to be traveling down from the pipes underneath and from this area over here. Now, when I look in this area down here, I'm looking over here. I don't find anything wet or anything of that nature. I do find a microscopic misalignment of the metal, but I mean, like, that could have been there beforehand. And the other bolts down there at the very bottom, these guys, I know they're trued up and they're tight. So it's kind of like, a little screwy to find. Yeah, see, that's dry. See, dry. And this guy is dry. And so, dry. Where in the world is that oil coming from? We're not talking about a major leak, but we are talking about a leak. And I can't find it being obvious around the bell housing. So what I'm doing is, before I drain that oil, I got to find a good clean oil pan anyway. Got to clean one out in the meantime. But I had some paper towel up in this area to capture any oil. See if I can trace it back to here. The oil is coming down on this pipe over here, and I'm going to put it up by the sump pump, or the sump, what do you call this thing, where the oil comes down. And I want to see, in fact, what this looks like in about an hour. I'll be draining from this area right over here. And I can understand better, maybe I can understand better. I'm not sure to say where the heck that oil leak is coming from. But I don't want to proceed unless I can really firm it up. On the other hand, this minor leak did not occur until after I did my work. So, yeah, there was no leak here beforehand. We were nice and tight. I remember that. I'm very happy because I always check every morning to see that she's not leaking fluids and so forth. So I got a feeling, in other words, that has to do with my work. I'm not sure what has to do with my work. So I'm going to go ahead and try to see if I can get the oil drained out of here and get that cover off. I was skeptical, but apparently we're able to get all the oil into this one little container. I had this guy as a backup and just slip him in just in case. But there we go. Okay, so we're whoa, don't you go blowing around like that. Again, I guess the wind's blowing it. I'll have to let that finish draining. And that leak down there, that's not this. That's just okay where the oil was leaking beforehand. And we're gonna have a little bit of messy oil stuff here today, and I will be pouring oil back into containers and washing my hands. And I like the dish soap mostly, I guess, in order to get the stuff off me all the time. But part of the necessary part of the course to get this thing done. So we'll get it done. I'm ready to pour that oil from that flimsy container. And when I get out of the very flimsy container, into that spout down into that container there. And I'll get back to you afterwards. Okay, meantime, I gotta clean my phone. Looks like it's getting rid of my itself. Okay, after some more morning coffee, Sumatra in particular, then I'm going to remove that brake arm right there, the rear brake. And then I can get to the bell housing very effectively. You do have to remove this cable again. That's the clutch cable, so I have to release the tension on that. Pull out those bolts, and everybody goes into that box right there. And then we're going to see if we can get to that once we remove the pressure plate, that is, then we can get to that bolt and see if we can release it with a little bit of WD-40. So some good Sumatra can really help out on a day like today, I'll tell you. Anyway, long story short, it looks like it was the clutch cover gasket itself that was brittle that caused the bloody oil leak, and I just ordered another one. And if you look in here in the pan where we drain the oil, I was looking at this material here and I thought, this is quite interesting. I'm gonna get my hands on it. I'll just got clean. Anyway, but I touched that stuff and I thought, oh, what is this? This is not metal. And when I opened up again the case, then suddenly I'm finding that, gee, this guy's as brittle as all hell and he's wanting to come off at this point. And so the theory is that, so the first time when I opened him up, I unsealed it, if you will. And I unsealed it for a 41-year-old case. If this hadn't been, say, it was built, all over 41 years ago. So basically, let's say this gasket at that point had been dried out. So when I went to seal it again, on the side that they did not put the gaskets in, there might have been a little bit of a gap there, and she wasn't sealing properly anymore, or collapsing, if you will, like a gasket should on pressure, and therefore that brittle, say, nature allowed the oil to pass through that side of the gasket. For my side of the gasket that I worked on, of course, it was cool and did its job. So anyway, I ordered a new gasket, and it's on its way from vintage CB750 Honda. And meantime, now back to work over here. Well, I think you've seen me do all this already, so in earlier parts of this video. So I'll catch up with you a little bit. We're back where we were the other day, where again, like I can't go any farther without loosening that bolt. And I thought to myself, well, I watched other videos, they just twist them right off, they tap them, they come right off, etc., etc. I'm still waiting for that adapter, and it should be here in the next few days. In the meantime, I thought, okay, well, let me give this a try, and I'll give this about half an hour soaking time, and then I'll try to tap that bolt and I'll let you know what happens. Well, we had a long talk and decided to say that we were going to come loose after all. And there was a little bit of that stuff and a lot of gently tapping on this guy, and hoping that I didn't damage him too much. I could clean him up as well, because I'm going to have to put him back on afterwards. And it's got a few things underneath I got to pull as well. But I have to inspect this fellow, make sure I didn't do too much damage to him. I don't think I did, but I'll make sure I didn't. It's a little bit of damage there. The tightening, he goes actually like this. So I'm surprised looking at these marks right here that indicate that someone had tightened this like this for a while. Whereas, as I was turning it like this when I really loosened it. And interesting. A little forensics on that too. And we have a box for this. Yes, we do. Okay, cool. And that goes in that box over there. And those guys. Okay, so here's the boundary. I have half of the plates out there, and the other half there. And so I'm going to start spreading them out, if you will, on this platform if I can, to get enough room. And then I'll take a look at the basket itself. It's called a basket. And see what's up with it. And also, let's see, I don't think there's any shifter leakage issues behind it, but I want to make sure. I don't have appreciation yet myself of this guy going in backwards or forwards or what. Boy, he's really stuck together. Look at that. Like, he is glued. Anyway, so I don't know how appreciation is going inside. Ooh, look, there he is. He's scorched. Not too much. But anyway, one way or the other. And so that's something that's in words I have to really look at myself, better understanding of. And so yeah, a little analysis here and learning and so forth and so on. I welcome to learn with me. So what I got going on here is I have all those displays over there. Okay, and that's the order that they actually came in with respect to the basket holder and their orientation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread them out on this layer up here, and I can examine each one individually and also have the correct order and how they went into the whole thing itself. On the 19th, I'm expecting another set to arrive from eBay. I'm going to put them right here, down here, and then what we can do is we can then compare them and say, hey, look, it's the same one, and there's a lot of difference. And also to say, in other words, if you're learning this area, please assume I'm absolutely ignorant or naive, maybe ignorant. And I welcome, your input and your advice, so make comments all you want. So this is where we are from now, and I have about maybe, 2 days before the next set does arrive. I can study a lot as far as, what goes on with these things and how they actually work and how they burnt out, scorched, or why shouldn't they work. And I'm looking at the differences, like, in other words, you got a disc here. This is really cool. He's all slanted like this, and he's the guy just closest in on the ring here. And then you have this dude here, and he is actually a little different, if you will, than these other guys. And then you have, again, the friction guy that goes onto the crankshaft, the transmission dude, friction guy, and so on 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 to the very inside one. And so we have that all lined up and ready to go, and we'll see what it looks like. Ready, action, camera, take one. Okay, I'm now a cameraman. Can you dig it? I'm gonna go to the other side of the bike and keep an eye on the shifting mechanism, okay? So this way we can record it. And I'm gonna go through all the 5 gears in neutral and see what the heck we do have, all right? We'll do it a couple times and see how it's cool, what it looks like. I don't think we actually have loose parts, but who knows? Give it all the way down. How's that looking? Oh my God, I can imagine what this looks like. Anyway, that's first gear. That should be neutral right in there. And there's my plate in neutral. And there's third gear, okay? And no little play in third gear, second gear, excuse me. And now third gear, fourth, and fifth. And I can't go any further than fifth. I'm going to go down from fifth to fourth, okay? I'm going from fourth to third, from third to second, from second to neutral, hello neutral, I neutral, hello neutral. And we're going to first. Anyway, so that's our recording right there of the linkage. And as I got a feeling when I review this with you, I don't think we're going to find any big problems. Given a choice, I like the idea of putting the basket on first, and she's on there nicely. And so I have a couple of, I have a washer that has to go on there that's fitted for her. Notice this is really cool looking gear. So it's got to go on gently, if you will. And then I have another fellow that goes on top of that, like a little bearing for the actual, disc group. What do you want to call them? Disc plates or whatever. As I remember, this was mounted this way. This way, again, this would go flush against that washer. And that would mount, if you will, I would think, against, again, any kind of bearing that they would have there. It's lunchtime. Well, it looks like the rings, or I guess they're called clutch plates, I've gotten here, and I'm going to open this package up and I'll check them out and I'll show them to you in a moment, okay? From what I can tell, it looks like they have been soaked in the oil already. I'm going to open them up and examine them. I had a bathtub all set right there for this set. And we'll see if in fact they have, let's say this ring right here. I'm not sure if they have that including this for the nut. I'm hoping they do, but anyway, I got to look at it and see, okay, how oily are we? And if we're already oily and so forth and so on, we're getting to put this back together again today. Okay, I think I'm basically playing right now to get to become more familiar with what I'm supposed to be doing. I put this is the original one down here, and this guy he's slightly different, if you will, than the other friction plates. These are original as well, but he's slanted as opposed to these guys being perpendicular. So this is the first guy I put down here, then I put this guy in, and then I followed up with this guy, and I'm building in, say, every other guy type of deal. Turns out that in the orientation part though, the steel plates themselves, which is really cool, they only align a certain way and only a certain way, and they'll only align a certain way, and that's it. Which is really cool. I can do this one hand, I think. here. Anyway, but yeah, they only align one way. Oh, there he goes. So now you see, and you can't just arbitrarily put them on. Boom. They want to go one way only. This part has to be aligned apparently too, because again, it's going to be going on into that basket eventually. So anyway, I'm just experimenting. I'll review what I'm doing, of course, before I proceed. But I might be able to get the bike put back together today. Okay, for your confusion, I have, well, let me see. I have 7 of these fellows, okay, and then the 8th fellow being this fellow in terms of, say, resistance rings, already installed here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I appear to have an extra one, and there's the book. Okay, it says, okay, there's your 7, your 8, and right there. And then this is the original right here, which is showing again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have a spare ring apparently. I can tell. Well, we can resolve that part later, I guess. Right now, lunch is on the way and I'm hungry. And this apparently is going to go into here like this. And then we have a washer and a bearing that have to go in. And then we have, again, the basket itself, which is going to be mounted. So I'm going to be looking at putting those parts together, and then I'll videotape it once again, say I do have it put together. Given a choice, I like the idea of putting the basket on first, and she's on there nicely. And so I have a couple of, let's see, I have a washer that has to go on there that's fitted for her. Notice this is really cool looking gear. So it's got to go on gently, if you will. And then I have another fellow that goes on top of that, like a little bearing for the actual, say, disc group. What do I want to call them? Disc plates or whatever. As I remember, this was mounted this way. This way, again, this would go flush against that washer. And that would mount, if you will, I would think, against, again, the kind of bearing that they would have there. Cool, that's not going to slip right onto there like that. 1, 2, 3, and off we go. Also, I can't wrap her up today anyway because of the fact that you need to get that gasket. And she might arrive today. I paid $38 for a $10 gasket to come from Ontario. But we'll see what happens there. Anyway, what I'm going to do is this, is I'm going to say, all right, let me take this off from here, okay? And come on, you. And take the top off, let's say this back piece off. Come on, come on. You're coming off no matter what you say. Anyway, put that onto here, all right? Like so. Get that onto there. And this way we start lining things up, and then I'll get a disc in there in the first place, all right? Otherwise, what we'll have to do is put the entire assembly together and then see if I can slip it on at that point. And that might be the easiest way to do this. We'll see what happens. Okay, that's the first pressure plate. And pressure plate? No, you don't call it pressure plate. That's the first, say, the steel say plate, as well as, again, there's say friction plate. And the friction plate, again, mounts. Should have mounted right in there and couldn't. So I'm going to track that down and find out why it did not. Oh, I see why. Okay, it goes all the way down to that. Oh, that's very cool. That actually does lock. Does it not lock in there? It does lock in there. That locks, yeah. See that's right there? That tab goes actually all the way down in there. So she's locked when she goes in. Alright, so now the next guy is, again, one of these wonderful steel jobs. And the steel jobs go in here and just fit like that. Now, the issue with steel jobs is that I need to be able to put all steel jobs and line them up with this thing at the same time. I will not be able to do that if I go this method here. That will not work. So, let me pull this out, okay? And put you back here. And so, let me pull you out. And whole shebang. Okay, now we have this still on here. All right, and we're going to look at that. Now that's the beginning part of approach number 2, which I figure you probably could figure out what I'm going to do. But I'm going to put the basket right over here and see if I can drop this guy into the basket. I know it's hard to believe it. I actually got the bloody thing on there. And I don't think I want to do this all the time. So this guy goes on next. This is a washer dude right here. And then we have a lock washer. That goes on, as I recall, like this. And then we're gonna put that little special nut on. We never got that wrench yet. Sorry about that. We never got our wrench yet, so we're gonna have to play with that a little bit in order to be able to get that on. The way this guy goes on, he's, if you look at him, okay, the tapered end right here, he goes on first like this down against that washer. And there we go. So we're gonna put that gently on like this. I gotta recharge this battery before I can continue on videos. So give me a break on that. We'll see if I can get this guy tightened up in the meantime. Okay, this is hand tightened at the moment. This is freed up. I had to redo this because I want to make sure that this is freed up. It felt stiff beforehand. We're lined up with all our little doodads in here. So we're good there. This is all good. I'm gonna tap this until this fellow lines up with, again, this tab. And then I'll lock her in at that point. What's important to note about this is that, okay, there's your pressure plate and you have 6 bolts, okay, that are actually springs behind them for that pressure. They're all basically buttoned down, but again, they're not totally torqued down, but you have to torque them down in a very, or tighten them down in a very, very balanced manner. Meaning you go 1, 2, 3, then no, again, 1, 2, 3 kind of a thing. So basically what you're trying to do is get this guy to go down evenly. Now, in order to test that, what you also want to do is turn this gently at the same time. And as long as, again, this guy's turning gently, you know this guy's okay. On the other hand, if he suddenly says, oh, I've got a little resistance and so forth, you know you got a problem here, and you want to dial it out a little bit more, loosen it up, and just gently go back in again, okay? So it's a little bit like that. Okay, now that we have the new set of rings, say, installed, okay, in the clutch assembly, this is the old set, and this is the, if you will, the 9th, this will be the 9th friction ring that came with, or the extra one that came with the set that arrived today. Now, if I wanted to compare this one to this one, you're talking apples to apples. And, you know, as far as touching and feeling and so on, so on, this guy on the left, okay, this does have 10W40 on it. This guy on the right has been wiped down. But my thinking is to say is that I can't see anything throughout my rings, okay, in other words, that I took off and with what I replaced with about $75 worth of somebody else's rings, including mail delivery and all that kind of thing, all that stuff, that, gee, I think it'd make that difference. I hope to gosh they do. Otherwise, I'm going to scratch my head again and say, what did I do wrong this time? But on the other hand, say this one's a little clear, so we'll be saying, you know, it's for best opportunity that the clutch will work. Well, I made a mistake which I need to correct. From what I can see, and I caught in another video of fellows looking at his rings and stuff of that nature. But this particular ring, which is unique to the other rings, it's called a laminated ring. It's actually, its position is here. This is the original model. I thought this is the order that I pulled things out of. Okay, but how this ring got here as opposed to here, I don't know, but basically what I'm looking at in the book here, you see that the double-sided ring, the laminated one, number 6, is again, okay, further back. He's like the second, okay, steel ring in the group of steel rings. And then you have this first steel ring and then him. So that would be, you swap this guy for this guy right here. And now that would be the way the order goes, okay, in terms of the basket. So what I gotta do is I gotta yank that apart at this point and redo it. Well, guess what just arrived about a moment ago or two is our replacement. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep the engine side first and get this on the engine. Then I'll prep the bell housing cover side and get that attached, and we shall get beauty under test. Some might say you don't need gasket cement. Actually, I go with being conservative. I'll use the gasket cement. Thank you very much. And I'm going to prepare the other side, and we're going to make this thing up, if you will, at that point. Okay, I want to clean this up a little bit from the last time I used it. I'll take the other stuff off right here and wipe this down. On the side, I don't think it's going to affect anything. It's the 10 before you put it in the first place. And that, like, I just cleaned this machine, this is all clean. And that'll be it. We'll just attach it. Well, I do want to get rid of that oily surface feel. Now I got this thing cleaned down. By the way, you don't want to use something like this to scrape this stuff off. Reason why is you can scratch the surface, of course, the cinders of the object in question. So with the soft metal like that, you just use your nails and scrape it off. In the meantime, like that. Meantime, you use a little bit of Windex, I guess, and put that on a little bit of paper towel, and then wipe that down so they can get the sense of grease off of this, or oil off of this, and at this point, then put some gasket cement on. Okay, beauty has been reassembled, so to speak, and this clutch has been adjusted. We'll find out if it works correctly or not. It works at all. And oil's been put in. You know, this has optimism put a temperature gauge in there too for later on use. But anyway, give it a try. And just what I did is I put in fresh 10W40 as opposed to the stuff I had put in before, because the other stuff looked like it was still remnants of the cherry juice from the 10W50. So give it a try and see what happens. And I'm going to try to start her in neutral first and foremost with that clutch switch, of course. And then see what I can do as far as I said, we're going to be back to her old self, I hope. She wants a slight charge for now. I don't blame her. It's had a long day waiting for that gasket. And now that it's on, we'll find out and see what's going on. It's just very, you know, it's hard to imagine that her transmission can be damaged, or the shifter linkage actually can be damaged itself internal, the transmission. And here's why. Number one, if you look at her mileage, you know, she's been very, very neat on the mileage. She's only like, you know, she's almost 16,000 miles, but not quite. And I haven't driven her, so I never drive a machine hard because it's a machine. I have to respect machinery very much as an engineer of all kinds of sorts, and being a wizard and so forth. So meantime, you know, the idea being the same that I do respect machines, and for me, you know, the more smooth you can shift the machine, the cooler it is, as opposed to slam shifting and all that. So I never do that kind of abuse on the machine, on this machine. Likewise, I would never over rev her or pop wheelies or anything of that nature. So, and also consider this: there's also an additional amount of this cherry juice, you know, 10W50 in there, keeping those gears well lubricated and electrics well lubricated. So, what in the heck? Well, I'm about to start Beauty in first gear with the clutch to say engaged. I'm going to call that engaged when in fact we are in fact engaging the clutch, which means again we're supposedly disconnecting the drivetrain from the engine itself. Now, what will happen is, you say, because she's on the center stand, the back wheel is going to turn, okay? And so I thought to myself, hey, it shouldn't be turning, but it does turn. And you hit the brake, it doesn't turn. But what I found is I still have some other types of behaviors, but again, I want to document what has been accomplished so far. And that is, again, if we turn it on, like so, darling, time to wake up and show off a little bit. There you go. And now, like that, it's not turning at all. I'd like to see if I could also document a noise. I believe to say that I heard, and maybe I didn't hear it, but I'm giving it a try again. So we got our clutch in. We are in gear someplace, where I don't know, someplace in the universe. Go for it, dial. I don't hear anything wild at the moment. Try shutting it off. She sounds okay. Second time around. Okay. Now I'm going to clutch out. Get away with it. go. The clutch is engaged at this point. Now let's stop. Nothing. Cool. All right, I got the mic pointing away from me, but I wanted to point something out to you. If you look, see, I'm about to shift, use the shifter. And I noticed, in other words, I have a certain amount of play in the back wheel, which I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it too easily. But she goes back and forth, enough like that, if you will. Let's say about 3 teeth in the back here distance. And now if I keep the rear wheel locked forward, like in other words, I'm pulling it forward with my hand, then in fact I can shift all the way down and shift all the way up. No problem at all. Okay, like that, and I'm in gear. And if I go back, okay, and I put her back like that, then I can also do the same thing. And we are in gear no matter what. But if in fact, okay, in other words, I go right in the middle between those 2 points. There she goes, she spins like she's in neutral. Okay, I wanted to get a picture of the back wheel, if you will, and while all the gear shifting is going on. This is basically what we're talking about here, is that, again, if I'm pushing it forward, I can shift down, no problem. Oops, I just contradicted myself, I think. I'm not sure. Give it a try again. There you go. Okay, so I'm locked forward. Okay. And I can go back, etc. So, but the bottom line is what allows all this play, if you will, in the drivetrain. And that's, again, what I'm curious about. I just rebuilt the clutch. She appears to be working just fine from what I can tell. Okay, so now this time the clutch is totally engaged, if you will. And we'll try that again. I can roll her all I want. Notice, okay, and I have the normal resistance, but I can roll as if the clutch is engaged. And if I go, I think I still got some gear. If I'm going forward, yeah, she slipped out of gear. Okay. Anyway, there you go. Back into gear. And again, we locked in. But anyway, there you go. Anyway, at this point, I'm going to be doing a lot of thinking and assessment analysis, and I welcome your opinion input. Just give me a holler on this video, any other, say hello or whatever. But if you got an opinion on this issue, and then say think you kind of an idea, say what I should look at and my approach of what I should do. Hey, let me know, okay? Because I'm very much open to suggestion. And I like to, other people's opinions. That's why I share this stuff in the first place. On that, I looked at shifter forks, and I've looked at shifter drums, and I thought to myself, okay, yeah, that seems like it could make sense, but if in fact, let's say the inner gears are not getting over into where they're supposed to be getting and so forth. But on the other hand, I don't see that relating to the rocking. And the rocking, I did observe a slight bit, in other words, down in the clutch area, in the basket with respect to the drivetrain gear. And I might even have to go back down to this area to find out why in fact are we in fact rocking. But if you have any ideas about this, again, please just let me know. Thanks.